Hi, Gemma. Hi, Nancy. Welcome to
Hi.
Office Hours. Nancy, nice to see you joining us again. So just in case you didn't hear the little notification at the beginning, we are recording this session, like all of the Office Hour sessions, and we'll be sharing the recording via challenge.gov. The purpose of this session is really for you to ask Sivan any questions that might be on your mind in regards to your phase 1 submission. You're welcome to turn your video on if you like. You're also absolutely welcome to keep it off. And then you are free to kind of come and go. So we'll be here for the full hour. You're free to kind of come and go depending on the questions you have. And then Gemma, I don't believe you're at our first session. So nice to meet you. Thanks for joining.
Likewise. Yeah, thanks for hosting these. I'm with Overdeck Family Foundation, so we are
great.
Affiliated with the Science Society.
Great. Well, nice to virtually meet you. So I think that's all you need to hear from me. I will step back and then you're welcome to chime in with any questions. And as I said, we'll be here for the full hour and you can kind of come and go as you please.
Nancy, if you have any specific questions that came up since you talked to Andrew, feel free to shoot them at me and I'll do my best to answer them.
Right. I guess my biggest concern is making sure that I have the right number of classrooms. And I haven't had a chance since yesterday to try the Power Up to see how that works, because the way he was showing it was like the opposite of how I was seeing it when I was looking at it. It was when the way that I saw it was you put in what you wanted for your effect size, and then it told you the number of classrooms, and he was showing me a way where you fiddle around with your classrooms and number of students, and the output was the effect size that you wanted. So is there any way that you can screen share or show me how I would get to that particular
yeah, hold on. Just bringing it up. And I will admit, I have never played with this. Well, let me at least screen share and then you can talk through. Oh, Natalia, okay, thank you. I was like, this is gonna throw yours off. Okay, so
all right, so I did the step through process. Like I clicked on that. And then I picked simple cluster random. Is that correct? Is that what you would do if I was randomizing by classroom?
I would think so.
And then we were doing two levels.
2 levels because you have, and so this
I was doing that.
You did the sample size rather than trying to get the minimum detectable effect size.
Right. And I
so
think
you can
okay, go ahead.
I mean, I would say if you know and you're stuck with a sample size, I would go with the sample size one like you did. And then see what effect size you can find with that. And then if that isn't what you need it to be, then I would go to the other one.
Okay.
So if you started here, so
up top, I put 0.30 rather than 0.45 because that's what we were recommended to use.
Okay.
And then I guess I didn't know where the I didn't know, see, they had retention rate, but I didn't know where you put in the number of students you thought would be on the level 1.
Yeah, so this would be level 1. in this
Oh,
row
that
8.
right there. Oh, there it is. Level.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see.
So,
Okay.
and that would be, are you doing math or science?
Math.
So this would be the number of students with or at risk of a math disability that you would expect
Right.
to have in a classroom.
Right. So suppose that was 5, then you would just put 5 in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the retention rate, you're just gonna have to kind of guess on that, I guess. I mean, from my experience, I've never lost a teacher in a study before, but I have lost students just because they move away or whatever, not
Yeah, and I don't
because
think
they-
you'll worry so much about losing students. And even, I mean, if you had a teacher come in and could just continue with the intervention,
Mhm.
then and you felt good about the way in which that teacher could continue,
Mhm.
you've been able to train them or whatever, then I wouldn't even consider that a lost
Okay.
class. And then I would just make sure you have in your implementation plan the description of what you would do under those circumstances. Like, so how would you train a teacher who has to start tomorrow with implementing this?
Okay.
If they were like a substitute or a long-term sub or covering a maternity leave or something like that.
Well, that's a good question. Do you suggest that we just skip the days when there's a substitute there, or that we try and continue if it's just like a 1-day thing?
I mean, that's I
That's
would
up to
leave that
us.
to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like what the intended implementation is.
Mhm.
If the intended implementation is that like anybody could pick it up, then I would say yeah. But if
Yes.
it like does require a level of training that you would need any teacher implementing to have, then maybe that's not appropriate in that condition. But again, it's very much determined by your individual site. Oh wow.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
I mean,
I just pushed
we've
you in.
found since COVID that substitutes don't exist. So they basically take the class and split it up and stick it into other people's classes. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to, under those circumstances, have the students, because then we have other teachers looking at what they're doing and whatever. So I think that might be
Yeah.
not
I
a good
think
idea.
you might actually need 3 levels because you have school in there.
Well, I asked them about that, and both at the webinar and when I asked yesterday, they said you can use level 2 because the random is the teachers, because I'm going to be assigning them equally per school. So each school will have an intervention and a control. And they said that the school would be a fixed effect. And that's how I've done other analyses. But see, so I need, because if you do, I mean, the school is not the unit of assignment, the classroom is. So, but you think, so I need to, yeah, give me your input on that.
I know. Well, I'm like, now I'm noodling with that. Because if they do fix on the school, then that inherently like becomes a level.
I was just thinking, if there's equal number of intervention and control, then the school shouldn't really affect it, because every school will have intervention and control. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, so that's, I mean, I guess that's part of, if you have, in this case, 2 units within the school, so you'd have 2 classrooms within the school or 2 grade
Right.
levels.
Yeah.
And that would bring you, so that's with the 5 students. If we, maybe see it, yeah, the students make so little difference really. when I did it the other way, what did it give me? It gave me like 60 something, but that would be 60 something classrooms. This
Yeah, that's like
is,
seems really high.
this would be 2 classrooms in 33 schools. Which also seems pretty high compared to what I feel like Andrew was running before. Eden, do you happen to have handy the 1-pager on RCTs for math?
I'll grab it.
Pull
Yeah.
it up. Oh, okay.
One of you awesome people.
Natalia, you go for it for consistency of screen sharing.
On it.
I feel like, oh, there's my button. I could stop that for you too. Nancy, do you feel confident in having enough schools? Or are you just trying to figure out how many you actually want to like have engaged directly with the this project
Um,
or the challenge?
yeah, from other research that I've done, when we just had intervention and control in the schools by classroom, we only had like 16 classrooms. So
Yeah, and
I
that
guess I
sounds
was
more
trying.
like that sounds more like what I feel like we had in the table. Yeah, if you can just scroll down to.
Is it this table or?
Yeah,
So is that saying that you need 39 classes, 13 in each school? Or is it saying you only need 13 classes?
no, I
total?
think it's 13 classes in 3 schools.
So that's 39 classes.
Right. So that is actually pretty much.
Yeah.
What,
That just seems like so huge to me. I guess I'm not figuring why that is. Maybe because we had classrooms with like 15 students in them. Maybe that.
I mean, that can
made it
make
less.
somewhat of a difference. Like, as you saw, I think it went from 39 to 33 when I doubled from
Right.
5 to 10.
So like down here, it's 21 classes for 9, if you have 9 students in each class. But
yeah, exactly.
I mean, we typically work at schools that are have a lot of struggling students, and so
Sure.
it's not
That's the other thing is, like, if it was implemented in an intervention class, like a math
yes,
intervention class, then like your whole class is going
right,
to be.
exactly.
So depending on how big that class is, of course, but if it was like 15 students in that class, then you're talking about a very different scenario. I think these are assuming that you're implementing this intervention and only a very small portion of the class are students, probably actually even with disabilities, using like a 10%, 12% estimate. But also, if you're working in hard to serve schools, your proportion of students with disabilities is probably going to be higher. You're probably closer
Right.
to 15%.
So that's my second question. Are we going, I can't remember what I read where, in order to determine eligibility, like the schools that we work in, they use either iReady scores or NWEA MAP scores to decide if kids qualify. But for the state, it's required that if the student is 2 grade levels below, that they have to receive intervention on those particular tasks. Their grade level is 2 below. So that's how they would be assigned to a math intervention if they.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the challenge, we're basically setting it as however the school does it.
Okay.
However, they would put a student in a tier 2 or tier 3 intervention. So,
Okay.
I mean, an intervention class would probably be considered a tier 2 or tier 3 intervention.
Okay.
Definitely not tier 1.
Yes.
So, if those assessments are the way that they would determine that, whoever they would identify as being in that kind of intervention, those would be your eligible students, along with any students with IEPs specifically for math.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because our state is very specific. A lot of states don't say how you have to do it, but
sure,
our state does say.
My guess is, there's a lot of worry about this, even our discussions around, what are the processes that people use, how effective is your MTSS system at a school for actually identifying students. And we know that different schools are going to have different capacities around that sort of placement and identification.
Right.
So we're realistic about the fact that there can be a lot of variation across schools. You just need to specify for us the way that each school does it, so that we know that it's. But again, if it is, they use iReady. If students are this much below iReady, that is totally fine.
Okay. So you're not looking for a particular percentile or percent for across. No. Okay.
I mean, I think there's a like an understanding in the literature that potentially like the bottom 25% of students might be considered at risk, but again, it's going to vary widely by the kinds of schools you're in. Like I was talking to somebody out of a charter school today and talking about like, well, we don't have the normal percent that everyone would have in a normal situation because we have special programs. And so we get, so all of those things we know can make that percent vary. If it was like crazy, like 50% of the school, we might question it. But if you're hovering, 30% and below, that would be totally normal.
Okay, well, that's great. That's very helpful.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm still trying to determine exactly how elementary school is different. We've been working mostly in middle school. So I worked in elementary schools K1, but I haven't worked in 4th grade yet. So I have to find out exactly how they
because sometimes they're departmentalized, but I have found it varies. I was just at a school where 5th grade was middle school and I was like, what? So
okay,
schools like to be fun and unique. Keep us on our toes.
Okay,
well, that office hours so we can answer all the very, very particular questions.
Well, that was really the only questions that I had.
All right.
So I don't know if anyone else is here that has questions.
I have a very general question just around timeline for recruitment. And I know programs have created a lot of new partnerships during the pandemic, but also as schools, I think, have fatigued with new partners, particularly new tech tools and research asks related to student data and data privacy concerns. I think our expectations around how long it takes to establish a partnership have lengthened, but I'm curious if others are hearing that and what the recommendations would be in terms of, like what to plan and map out in terms of how long it takes to formalize a partnership with the district or school.
Yeah, I am hearing very similar things, Gemma. It does feel like all of those things are true. I know that just getting districts to respond to emails right now is not super easy, especially, and individual schools even more difficult. So I do think a lot of new partnerships are going to be particularly difficult for a lot of providers. And so for better or for worse, I think we're anticipating that the most successful providers are going to be the ones that are relying on their pre-existing relationships with individual districts and schools or programs. So we don't have a lot of good advice, unfortunately.
Okay, no worries. Do you think in that case, this takes a separate IRB? You know, if a district might be working with a program or a provider, but they might not have research set up?
Yeah, so we are, at least for how it's currently designed, we're not requiring IRBs. That I think mostly it's because NWEA already has data sharing agreements with the schools and districts once they agree to be part of or take the assessment. And there's the data sharing agreement as part of the challenge. So a lot of those agreements are built into that. And NWEA is doing all the actual research and evaluation portion of the project and the challenge. So there might be some districts that need more than that. And I think those are going to be dealt with on a case-by-case basis. We're hoping not, because we know that time is of the essence for everybody.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
The only other thing I would add to that, Gemma, is we are asking all districts to who are partnering with intervention providers to fill out a letter of commitment that does contain a little bit more information about this. Part of that is them affirming either that they do not need IRB or equivalent to participate, or if they do, they have already met those requirements. So it is something that we've been trying to be quite proactive in terms of sharing that expectation. And I think to your earlier point, this is like obviously a big trade-off. I think we are aware that this timeline is tight and that, it is potentially quite a big ask to go out and form these partnerships, particularly at the moment. I think the trade-off there was like wanting to do something really quickly, given we know, and I think there was just new data this week, right, about the significant impact of COVID on learning for some of these particular groups. So it kind of felt like we needed to move pretty quickly here. So, I think a bit of a trade-off. We definitely hear that it's a challenging time, but also wanted to have a go at doing something pretty quickly.
I will also just say, Nancy, if you don't have any other questions, you don't have to feel compelled to stay on.
Okay. Okay.
You won't hurt my feelings.
Okay. Well, I think I'm going to go.
It was very nice talking
so
to you,
much
and good luck with your submission.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Nancy.
See you. Bye.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you all.